and welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. That's Bud Elliott. That's Tom Fornelli. That's Danny Kanell. I'm Chip Patterson coming to you live at youtube.com/cover3 and everywhere you get your podcasts on demand. Thanks for hanging out. Smash that subscribe, smash that like, and come and join us in the chat, a.k.a. the Cover 3 Tailgate, where our friend Brad, buddy, he just came in with good vibes, just getting it started, 8:34 a.m. Link goes live. He says, gentlemen, welcome back. Bud, again, great job with summer school. Really enjoying it, Bud. Again, it is critically acclaimed. It is soon to be award winning. Whether you're inside our house or out, the comments continue to come through. So a quick thank you and a celebration of summer school as it continues to rock. What do we have coming up on the horizon on the summer school schedule?
Let me see. So yesterday, we had Virginia with our friend Jackie Franchuli, and then on Friday we have Florida State. May 31st, we have Kentucky. Florida State, Kentucky. Sunday, we'll drop BYU. Monday, Tuesday, we're going to go a little TCU, LSU. And then on Thursday, one great interest to our friend Tom, Illinois comes out. So pretty excited there.
Love that. Summer school rocking and rolling. It's been a great series. It is a huge part of our summer and yours as we all continue to get ready. Also, in the tailgate, Thomas said, I didn't see any of the Cover 3 guys on the cover of EA College Football 26. What's up with that? What is up with that?
We should have been the only four. It's just been us four, on the cover. That's what that would have sold record numbers if they would have done that.
What do you like? So we're going with as our primary EA College Sports released the two versions of the new cover of the video game. We've got, I kind of thought it was interesting. So we're going non-quarterbacks at the front, Jeremiah Smith of Ohio State and Ryan Williams of Alabama. Also players that are not going to be draft eligible. So we're talking about players that are also, unless rules change, going to be back and potentially in the game for EA Sports College Football 27, the larger deluxe edition, which has a lot more characters, where we definitely should have been in that one. Danny, what do you make of maybe a non-traditional starting cover here?
I don't mind the coaches. I don't mind the fans. The two that jump out at me are Tim Tebow and Reggie Bush. I don't know. If you were going to have a Heisman edition, maybe that would make sense. But just to have two of those guys in there, I don't know. It feels a little weird. Maybe I'm jealous. Maybe I'm hating. I don't know. They just I saw Tebow and it felt like he stuck out like a sore thumb. And then I saw Reggie. I was like, oh, I get it. And that's it, right? Is there anybody else in there?
Well, I mean, you've got an old. You got Kirby. You've got coaches, James Franklin,
coaches,
Ryan Day.
I'm okay with the coaches even, but I just the only two guys and how'd you select them? I don't know. That was a little weird.
Participation trophy ass cover.
Yeah, exactly.
Back in my day, you had to earn it. You just one person per year. The best player available, they would put him out there. That's what now everybody's got to have a chance. Damn this NIL, damn this transfer portal. It's just ruined the sport.
Wait a second. Is that Devin Gardner in the Michigan jacket?
That's what I was wondering. Yeah. Is it?
Yeah.
See, that's another one that's just why?
He was available.
Yeah.
I was available, damn it.
Random, yeah.
I mean, I think, what it could be.
Gardner's calling games. Devin Gardner, Tim Tebow, Reggie Bush, what is the common thread between those three? They are active college football media members. Tim Tebow.
Reggie's on TV?
I don't think Reggie is anymore.
Oh,
what is
Mark Ingram? Mark Ingram took his spot. You're right.
Okay.
But Devin Gardner calls games. He does color commentary.
Yep.
Okay.
The main takeaway I have from this is that you would normally want to go with a quarterback. But if you think about the quarterbacks in the Heisman odds, how many of these dudes have really played very little or not at all? I mean, Arch is number one in the Heisman. Okay. Sayin is 4. Lagway is 7. Dante Moore is 8. Sellers is 9. We haven't seen Mateer play at the Power 5 level yet. He's 11. Austin Simmons for Ole Miss, we've seen him play one legit drive against Georgia. He's 12. I think there are so many guys that have awesome upside at the quarterback position. But if I ran EA, none that I'd be like, yeah, for sure him. I mean, if I'm picking, it's Lagway, but I would need to basically have a real life injuries off setting. like you can do in a video game. So I think Jeremiah and Ryan Williams make the most sense there. And you're not going to throw like Kate Klubnik or Garrett Nussmeier on, because I don't think people would actually recognize. Like, if you took the average college ball fan helmet off, would they be able to say, yeah, that's Kate Klubnik?
I think they could say Cade over Nuss.
I think the same for Nuss. You think they would know Nuss?
I'm not going to argue for Cade, but I think Cade with the flow is a bit more recognizable than Nuss.
Like Jeremiah is recognizable clearly.
Correct.
Right? He got a ton of airtime. Arch is recognizable because he like the outside football.
Well,
stuff.
Arch said no. That's the reporting.
Right. Arch and Stark both, right?
Mm-hmm. They're focused on business.
We're going to give him the same credit we gave Quinn Ewers when he cut his hair. Yeah. All of a sudden, we were like, "Hey, listen, new Quinn Ewers. He cut the mullet. We got to take him."
Time for frivolity.
Montreal says if Sellers wins the LSU game, he is on the cover. Yeah, I don't think so. But
tailgate also coming through. Devin Gardner, former cover athlete. Tim Tebow, former cover athlete.
I don't think Devin Gardner was ever on a cover.
He was not.
Denard was. Denard was. So
is that Denard or is it definitely Gardner?
I can't really tell looking at it on this small.
Yeah, it's so small. I can't really tell.
I like also this has also been noticed. It did have a lot of flair of old Sports Illustrated March Madness kind of covers.
Yes.
Yeah.
With the collage on it, which this whole video game is an exercise in nostalgia. So shout out to them for getting a good look at it. But what's our expectation, Bud? Do we have any inside sources into the EA crew and sort of what we're going to be looking at in terms of the release of this game later this summer?
I will find out tomorrow. Actually.
There we go.
So we'll, I guess when we reconvene on Monday, or well, no, not Monday, probably Wednesday, right?
Soon. Yeah,
soon.
We'll get it. We'll get a full report from Bud Elliott from being inside the belly of the beast. Looking at EA Sports, he was able to get there and give us a look at it last year. That we'll be able to provide that again. Last Thursday, we got a chance to react to the college football coach rankings at the Power Conference level for CBS Sports. Did a little conversation here on the show. Just wanted to, at least before we close the book on that and move on, wanted to see if after seeing 1 through 25, after seeing the rankings as they shake out, any more reaction or thoughts on sort of how the consensus looks at the coaches here in college football going into 2025.
I mean, I think there's a lot of room for upper mobility for some teams, but I thought the question you guys took on Thursday was a really good one. Like, who outside the top 25, and whoever was at 26, I think your answer was the one I was like, yeah, that makes sense for sure. I mean, there are a lot of guys who feel like they're kind of at their peak in that teens range. Like, I mean, did Lane Kiffin just have the best season he'll ever have at Ole Miss? I think the historic odds say yes. Doesn't mean that he's governed by history. Is Drinkwitz going to do better at Missouri than he's already done? I think it's really unlikely. He's sitting there at 24. Bielema could rise up. I'd put good money. Cignetti's already had the best season he's ever going to have at Indiana, right? I think Lashley probably the same at SMU, but I'm a little more hesitant on that one because the competition's easy and they have big time, NIL money. I don't think Ferentz is going to go up from 19. He's probably got downward mobility there. Is Dillingham going to take another jump? I guess it's possible. They're one of the favorites in the Big 12, but there's like 16 favorites in the Big 12 because
as we have invested,
right,
$10 on all of them.
I guess Heupel could go up. I think there's a lot more room for a downward slide for Lincoln Riley than there is to go up, just based on what their win total is, this year. Whittingham could jump back in, I guess, if they win the Big 12. I think like you'd see him jump back in the top 10 probably. So I think there's a lot of guys in that 11 to 25 range who could, like Norvell, obviously, like probably going to be sliding out this time next year. So there's definitely going to be a lot of room for change.
Danny, anything stand out to you from the list? Sort of once everything broke out.
I thought it was. I mean, there's a couple coaches that are on there that could be on the hot seat. Like Lincoln Riley comes to mind when he's a top 15 coach, and you're like thinking about the season that he has to have at USC this season, or else, he could be in that conversation. I thought that was pretty interesting. Then you kind of forget about his body of work at Oklahoma, how strong that was. It's like, all right, well, how distant memory is that? And then I go back to Jimbo Fisher, who was a top 5 coach, and he's not even in college football anymore. So it can be a very fickle list.
You go real fast. And as I mentioned on Thursday's show, the fact that we do this every single year gives the voters some freedom to have some volatility. You take a big swing, then there's a little bit of a course correction. One last thought here. It is from our friend Ryan in the tailgate. Tom, I guess you're the best, the best resource, as your author name was on both the rankings of 1 through 25 and 26 through 68. So you get a lot of the blowback and a lot of the, a lot of it goes your way. Who got the most mad online? Ryan asks.
Worst possible answer I can give you, but it's the only answer I have. I don't know.
Okay.
Here's the thing. Just between the 4 of us, if you're listening to the show, cover your ears. The only interactions I see on Twitter and my notifications are from people I follow. That's been a great hack for Twitter to make it a little more enjoyable in the recent years. It's just, if somebody I don't follow says something to me, I don't see it.
But they can still tip you, though.
Yeah.
Make sure you tip Tom.
That is the best way for me to see you.
Yeah.
Like, unless I look at the replies manually of a tweet, I don't know anything anybody is saying to or about me.
You should put that in the bio now and see how much money you could make. Be like, the only way I'm seeing is if you send me a tip.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like the replies.
I do.
I mean, like it can be too much. And when I'm trying to use Twitter for the main purpose, which is to like get info fast, I don't see it because like on my tweet deck, I don't have a replies column. It's just like that's not relevant to me. But like if you use it on your phone, which I don't know about you guys, I use it a lot less on my phone than I used to. I just don't really check it. It's not as important anymore. I think sometimes you can get good feedback on the show and also bad feedback. Like sometimes I'm like, yeah, okay, these guys they're not coming from an educated position here. Like this is just not a sensible argument. But sometimes like, yeah, you know what, we need to probably like mention that next show. That's something I missed.
Well,
see, for me, it's just so I don't get distracted. Because it's like when I'm on there, like you said, I'm just trying to find stuff to get to work and use it and all that kind of crap. But if I sit there and I have all the notifications going all the time, I just start getting in conversations or arguments with people, and it's just not a good use of my time.
The feedback that I saw the most was mostly dealing with hypotheticals. Like not that anyone was specifically angry with an individual ranking of a coach, but a lot of it was, okay, well, if this happens, then what happens with this coach? Then that, like, what happens if Mario Cristobal is able to add a college football playoff appearance or an ACC championship to his resume? Where does that put him? A lot of the fans that I was talking to felt as though they understood the place of the ranking, but there was an eagerness where they were excited to see, what results might lead one way or the other. All right. Coming up on the other side.
Oh,
yeah.
One thing I did want to text RJ about this, but I just forgot to.
Oh, Silky Johnson?
So, yeah. All right. So I know we value like experience at the Power 5 level, but like what if somebody has done more in 1 year as a P5 head coach than somebody else did in like 3 or 4 years?
I mean, this
like
is
we're getting credit for time spent.
It's the Kurt Cignetti ranked at 61 question.
Yeah, right. I mean, I agree. Coaching P5 is wildly different. And Indiana had a fairly easier schedule than a lot of the teams that were going for the playoff to lead into our discussion that's coming next. But like, let's just take a look at a couple of these. Where do you have Dion? Like
43rd.
Cignetti did more in 1 year than Dion's done in 2.
Yeah, I believe he had him 43rd.
That's kind of, you see what I'm saying? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm not,
But I don't think he's wrong to not overreact to very small sample stuff.
Oh,
Cignetti's
I'm sorry. He had Dion 23rd.
Okay. All right. Cignetti's done more in his career at the P5 level than Joey McGuire has. More than Fran Brown has, right? Like,
there are no wrong answers.
Cignetti's done more in his career at the P5 level than Billy Napier has.
Wasn't RJ in Portugal last week?
I don't know.
I think RJ's in Europe. Because he said on his Instagram, he had like a picture of him at the Europa League final, which I believe was in Benfica, which isn't Benfica in Portugal. So maybe I'm just going to recklessly speculate. Maybe RJ was going on vacation and it's like, oh shit, I got to get this in.
I mean, look, hey, it does happen to the best of us. So somebody actually had a StreamYard emergency and had to put that fire out and did that.
I'm gonna say that's RJ's. If anybody starts complaining about RJ's ballot, I'm gonna say, dude, he was going to Portugal. Give him a break.
Oh no, it's a translation issue. Yeah, like that's the problem. It was lost in translation. That's
Or it was in Spain, according to the chat. So maybe, RJ's on a European vacation right now. I'm gonna forgive him for his rankings.
All right. Coming up on the other side, down in Destin, the earth is shaking because some of the heavy hitters in college football are not happy. And now all of a sudden, everything that we thought about what a college football playoff might look like, what even the NCAA might look like, all of it's on the table. We'll get into the future of college football, at least what Greg Sankey wants, and more next.
The clock never stops. Relive the greatest moments with uninterrupted highlights and more.
It's Gareth Bale! Ronaldo! Wonderful goal!
On the UEFA Champions League channel. Streaming free.
SEC spring meetings in Destin have everybody fired up. Our friend Quantrell Knows says, everybody clear out. Let's let Danny go ISO. This will be a conversation that everybody gets to participate in. I mean, Danny, there is a laundry list of stuff that's coming out, like whether it's what the college football playoff format is going to be like, the transfer portal, 8-game, 9-game schedule. I mean, there's retconning and revisionist history of what happened last year and ways that we should look at that. I will let you just take this where you want to go. What stands out the most from what we are getting out of the SEC spring meetings in terms of a talking point that has gotten your attention?
Well, I mean, the SEC has been the absolute kings of propaganda from the beginning of time. Like, they know how to spin things in their favor, and they have, and it's actually worked really well for them. There's a lot of here that I can totally agree with, and I think we all could. Kirby Smart getting up there and pounding the table for one transfer portal, window in January after the season makes a ton of sense. Playing 9 games to me makes a ton of sense, but I understand their pushback. The ACC, I think it's interesting. Did anybody at ACC spring meeting say anything about a 9-game conference schedule?
It might have been mentioned in a breakout session. It was not a headline.
Right.
Really want 9 games.
No, but I would want, I would want them to actually have 8 conference games, and then you have to play 2 against, either the Big 10, SEC, or Big 12, or the Big 12, have them cross over. But they really do need to play against the SEC or Big 10. Conference continuity is what we need, where everybody does the same thing. That's the ultimate. But the thing that's caught the biggest attention is the playoffs and the way that they're trying to manipulate the playoffs so that they can have as many teams as possible. Because guess what? It's worked for a long time when they had up half the field in the 4-team playoff, which is why Greg Sankey's like, sure, we'll go back. You want us to go back to the 4 teams? Sure, we'll go back to that, because we had 2 a lot of the time. It's worked in basketball where they've had, 14 out of 16 teams? Mm-hmm. Baseball, they've got 13 out of 16. Softball, they've had the most ever. Like, it helps to get a lot of teams to get a swing at the national championship. So most of the time you will get, a national championship, and then you can claim you're the best conference in the land. And it's worked for them for a long time. And I think they're trying to do it in football, which is, why I've been pretty consistent. Now, I was more consistent in the 14 team, where I was okay with the 4-4-2-2-1 model. Going to 16, where there's 3 at large, gets me a little bit more nervous, because I think there's a lot of times that there's going to be 6 from the SEC in a 16-team field, and possibly 7.
If you go to a 16-team model, I'm not so sure that there shouldn't be 6 SEC teams. At that point, I have a real hard time filling it out with teams that actually have the talent to compete for a title. And that's all-encompassing. Obviously, you have to earn your way in, which is sort of like the SEC's all-powerful Oz thing. They're like, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. And the man behind the curtain is what you actually do against the schedule you play. They really just want you to look at only the schedule played, not your results against that schedule played. I found some of the comments from Sankey to be like really disingenuous. But everybody has agendas, right? He's like, we're not going to put out this, prepared statement and media blitz thing. Like I think he was implying maybe the ACC and Big 12 did. And yet all of the SEC ADs who spoke yesterday came out in lockstep about how they don't like a committee. I'm like, do you mean the committee that basically put every single SEC basketball team into the tournament and damn near every SEC baseball team and put in Alabama over undefeated Florida State the year before and pretty much routinely has given the SEC quite a bit of favor? And I think if you look at it, and we discussed this on Twitter yesterday a little bit, like the due consideration given to Alabama for its schedule was the fact they were even considered down the stretch.
As a 3-loss team with a loss to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma.
Vanderbilt. And look, we love Vandy. Obviously, Barton's there. Vandy lost to Georgia State, okay? And you lost to a 6-7 Oklahoma team and not close. Like, they whipped you. And you weren't getting better over the course of the season, which I do think is something the committee does consider. It's like who's actually improving down the stretch. That's something we talked about in that move from 4 to 12. Like, nobody could argue Bama was getting better. They were kind of regressing as the season went on, whereas certain teams, maybe in SMU, when they switched to Kevin Jennings from Preston Stone at quarterback, they took off like a house of fire.
Yep.
So I found it a little bit disingenuous, but everybody's going to argue their own points. I think the SEC could get more teams in if they did not want to go with this 4-4-2-2-1 thing. But the thing is, they want to have basically play-in games within their tournament, and they have to find a way to keep the conference championship games relevant from a business perspective. Let's all remember, like, we love this sport, but you're rooting for a business for basically like a franchise of a larger business, whatever it's South Carolina or Michigan, right? Like, you guys root for a business. So a lot of these decisions aren't really made for the fans or for us or for the TV product enjoyment. It's like maximum number of eyeballs, maximum amount of inventory. And when I look at this, like the whole idea we're going to go to a 16 team and you're going to have two teams that have double buys, that's the most like cockamamie scheme ever. But the thing is, it keeps the conference championship games relevant, which I don't care about. But I guarantee the SEC and Big Ten really do, because they make a lot of money from our company, Fox, NBC, and ESPN, respectively there, when they have them. So I'm talking too much here.
Well, I would push back that it's like if you're rooting for a team on Saturdays in the fall, you're rooting for a team. If you're trying to celebrate wins and losses in May, then you are rooting for a business. And I think that for some college football fans, it can get a little lost that when you are rooting for wins in May for your favorite conference, they don't care about you. Like, honestly, the team probably cares more about you on the field in the fall in the stadium than there is nothing to be won or lost for fans. Or you could argue maybe there's only stuff to be lost. But at this time, I think what is important is just to be interested and to voice an opinion and see how things go. I don't think anybody is looking to please a certain fan base. I don't think a South Carolina fan, I don't think an Indiana fan has anything to win coming out of a conference spring meeting. It's just kind of the order of business.
Agreed. But they all are going to like beat their chest and chant SEC, right? I'm like, this doesn't necessarily make a better product. This makes it kind of a worse product. I do wonder, like, for how long is this going to be a thing? I don't know if they're going to get this 4 guaranteed bid thing. Maybe they will, but it seems like the Big 12 and the ACC really do kind of care about that not happening, at least not right now. So maybe it won't. I also wanted, when the ADs were speaking yesterday, maybe I should have just gone and asked the question, but I didn't know they were going to come out with this media blitz. So you say you don't want the committee. What result do you think would have been fair last year in this selection process? Are you going to tell me like Ole Miss, which lost at home to Kentucky, or that 3-loss Bama team? I don't, like, you say it's not optimal, but almost every break always goes to the SEC. Like, there's no 2-loss teams from other conferences getting considered at all. So you're already getting quite a bit of hat tip for your conference schedule, which I think is noteworthy and real. But if you have the best players and you spend the most money, like, how rigged do you want this to be?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. Do the conferences get paid by the number of teams that get in the same way that they do in the basketball tournament?
And by how they advance.
Okay, well, that's why. They don't have a problem with committees. They have a problem with last year's committee. And all the ADs are pissed about it because, like you said, Bud, it's a business. And in their budgets, they were accounting on having 4 SEC teams in the playoff and getting that money. And then
Okay,
they
so
only got
you
3
think
in.
it's retroactive anger about
Yes.
like
It's
the,
like,
the budget money they were counting on.
I don't have the money all of a sudden.
But what's their share for one extra SEC team and
I don't
divided
know,
by
but
16? Like, it can't be.
For a whole athletic department, it's not like, hey, sorry, softball, y'all are taking the bus now. I mean, it's not, I don't think that we're talking about those kinds of differences when it's like that unit cut into 16 and then the share after that. But it might just be the principle of it.
But going back to your point, though, about what would have been fair, like, yeah, between Alabama and Ole Miss, the losses to Kentucky, Florida, Vanderbilt, and Oklahoma, those 4 teams, when they combined, 6-22 in the SEC against everybody but Alabama and Ole Miss. So the results we got were the fair results. You didn't deserve to be in because you lost those games. And strength of schedule was considered. That's why you were ranked higher than teams with fewer losses than you had, because of your strength of schedule. So it is a whole lot of just hindsight is 120, I guess, in this case, when they're looking back at it, how things actually broke down. As for the format, I've got my own kind of proposal I'm working on. I haven't completely finished yet, but I'm going to be publishing it sometime either this week or next week. I have a compromise for the SEC and the Big Ten. If they want the auto bids, you won't get 4. We'll give you some. But we're also going to cap how many teams each conference can have in any given year. No conference can have more than 4.
Ooh.
You want to make this, you want to keep this
They'll
sport
never
national?
sign off. They would not compromise.
I'm just
I
saying.
would love it. It's a great
if
idea.
You actually, like my preferred format would be basically the one I'm working on now is you give the Big Ten and the SEC 3 automatic berths. Because let's be real, if we go to 16, there isn't going to be a season in which each of those leagues don't get 3 teams in anyway. Right. So you give them 3 automatic berths, but you cap them at 4. You also give 2 G5 teams auto bids, the top 2 conference champions from the G5. And you do that because that way you don't have to give these teams buys. You just give them the G5 team in the first round and let them win by 45 points. There's your buy. Okay, you move on. You might even face another one in the second round. And then the at-larges would be between the other conference champions, which, the Big 12 and the ACC automatically get into. So there's 6 at-larges left at that point, one of which will probably go to Notre Dame. Then there's 5 more at-larges. One will be Big 10, one will be SEC. And then the other 3 will go to the Big 10 and the ACC. Everybody eats. Everybody's happy. You could stop eating each other. You can just keep going in the direction you get. And you're going to make money. You're going to be rich. Everybody will be happy. Just shut up and be happy with what you got. That's my plan for now.
Can you give that to Sankey? He was the one who asked. He said, no one's giving me any ideas. He's like,
my phone's not ringing off
the
hook. Let's call
send him, text that to him repeatedly, every hour. So he says his phone's ringing.
It sounds like Jim Phillips and Brett Yormark have been giving him an idea for quite some time now, based on the reporting out there. They're like, hey, what about this?
Right. They definitely have. And he doesn't really care.
You
know what's interesting about
he also throwing out crazy stuff, which is not going to happen in the near future about how they're going to break away from the NCAA.
Mm-hmm.
Right now,
already have.
You kind of need those extra 300 schools to be your legal shield, so they pay up for stuff that is where the liability is primarily being incurred by the top teams, which are overwhelmingly in your league and Petit's league.
I was entertained.
Long-term, maybe.
Honestly,
no.
I didn't take it seriously, but I was entertained at Greg Sankey being up there. But I'm not saying it. I'm just saying I've got ADs in there that are asking.
They're asking.
Why are we even in the NCAA? People are saying this. A lot of people are saying this, and then all of a sudden it's like, why are we in the NCAA? Big graphic letters. It's.
But they kind of already are out. Aren't they already out? Kind of. They've got the best of both worlds, right?
They definitely have the best of both worlds right now.
So
at least
college football's not in the NCAA. College football's in the college football playoff, and the SEC's running the college football playoff.
Right.
And they get to keep the legal protection of, hey, Furman, can you chip in $150K on when we lose the next lawsuit? Let's rewind about 14 months when we had Dennis on here. And he was talking about the big thing coming is not house, it's the concussion stuff, which is why they were trying to make some of those changes, some of which were probably lip service and some of which maybe legitimate safety changes. ADs maybe asking about this. I don't think ADs deal with the liability piece nearly as much as school presidents and school council. My guess is school presidents are not being like, hey, let's just go ahead and shoulder all the liability ourselves right now. What do you guys think? No, if you got somebody else who will pick up the tab, let's hold on to that for a little bit longer, guys.
Do you guys I'm sure you guys have seen the numbers about if there wasn't a committee, like almost nothing would have been different. Almost through like the 12,
we just
the
did the
top 12.
BCS.
Yeah, and even a 16. If you would have eliminated the committee and just used the BCS rankings, I think almost, and they might have been slightly out of order, but like as far as the teams, they were all right about the same.
Yeah, there were a
Except
couple
for
of
Florida
seedings.
State.
There were a couple of seedings that were different. That would have been
Right.
all. I think the greatest difference, if you'd used the strict BCS formula with last year's rankings, was 2 spots for all those like significant positions along the way.
Fundamentally, I mean, it's well, maybe not fundamentally, but in spirit, the selection committee isn't really any different than the BCS because they're all being shown a certain set of stats and then picking the best teams based on those stats. And the BCS formula was based on computer polls, which were using stats, and human polls, which, whatever. But when you combine them all together, you kind of get the same result as you do with a group of people looking at green and red boxes.
Yep.
In related news about SEC ADs being pissed off that only how many teams got in last year? 3?
3.
Yeah, I did a model run. And if Bama and Georgia return to form and Arch is legit, I think there's a very real world in which the Big Ten gets 4, Notre Dame gets in, Big 12 gets 1, ACC gets 2, and SC gets 3.
Again.
Because of all the everybody just beating up on each other.
South Carolina and LSU and Florida and Missouri, because their schedule is kind of a cakewalk, and Oklahoma's improved and Auburn's improved, and they all beat each other up, and you got a lot of 8 and 4. And then you got 3 teams sitting up there at like 12 and 0, 11 and 1, 10 and 2. We're running it back.
And then next spring, the SEC's talking about going to a 6-game conference schedule.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, it's
they kind of have an elite team problem right now, though.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to continue. I really don't think it will. I don't want to be disingenuous here, but
I mean, it is kind of ironic because when you think about the schools that they have added, like they add Texas and Oklahoma, which are like, national title blue blood contenders. And you look at the Big Ten, it's like, yeah, they added Oregon and then theoretically USC, but they also bring in UCLA and Washington. So they kind of bring in mid-level teams to kind of take some of those losses. And you can argue in the long run, maybe the SEC should have gone for a larger brand that wasn't as good at football as Texas and Oklahoma.
Hey, Chapel Hill's right there, baby. I'm telling you.
That's what I'm saying. The SEC needs more North Carolinas.
Florida State right now. I mean, hey, Daddy,
Yeah.
maybe that's our ticket, dude.
Hey, time slot champs,
check,
TV
take the
ratings,
fuck.
and L's, baby. Let's go.
So I'm saying if I'm the SEC right now, I'm calling like Virginia Tech and North Carolina and just saying, hey, guys, you want in? We need some wins.
Like, I think the SEC's like 6 through 12 is demonstrably better than the Big Ten's 6 through 12.
Yes.
But it's 1 through 5 is not. Like the Big Ten's 1 through 5 last 2 years has been better than the SEC's. A lot of that's quarterback play, I think, and probably coaching culture as well. I think there's a little bit less me in the Big Ten than the SEC. Like I hear fewer. I said this like a year ago. We hear fewer.
I know. I
mean, people get really mad about this, but we hear fewer stories about like the crazy agent stuff out of the Big Ten than we do the SEC. I don't know why that is, but just anecdotally, I hear less.
It's a fun broad stroke to like continue to pull on and ask questions about because
I don't know if it's going to continue though.
Right.
No
But it checks out with what we've seen in terms of the transfer portal activity, player retention, some of these huge, big money, big star players that show up and then don't live up to it. I mean,
like the SEC fans care more, but Big Ten players care more.
Ooh, put it on a shirt.
Just means more to the fans,
To our
than our
players.
All right, real quick, we're going to take one more break. Then I want to get back into that playoff format talk, a conversation that I thought was done, but might not be, as Bud mentioned. Jim Phillips, Brett Yormark, others reportedly have been offering up other ideas for 2026 and beyond. We'll get into all that and more next.
Get ready.
Wait a second. I thought we were going tubing.
All 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies and Knuckles are now streaming on Paramount Plus.
And everyone loves it.
Every adventure,
Just try to keep up.
every face-off,
This ends now.
and every moment that will have you saying,
Where have you been? My entire life!
It's showtime.
all 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies and the entire Sonic universe are now streaming on Paramount Plus.
Can I
Yeah,
rant on something too? I've been thinking
Sure.
about a lot.
yeah, absolutely.
I think we need to start valuing wins more too. and I'm not trying to be like, hey, Indiana guy here, because I was very skeptical of them fairly deep into the year. But if we are in the era of load management, like Ohio State's talked about, like you're kind of pedal off the gas. We saw what Texas did at some games last year, where it was like the Mississippi State game, for instance. Like not losing a game when you don't have your A game, or when you decide maybe to like not run your best plays, or like that's a skill. Like Ole Miss last year, cool. You beat like a bunch of teams by 50, but you didn't do the most important thing, which is don't lose. And you can't tell me it's all just schedule. Like they lost to Kentucky, Bama lost to Oklahoma and Vanderbilt. I kind of think I'm still like extremely pro advanced metrics, but I do think in this era of load management, you can game them more. And we see this some in the pros too. Like back when only some NBA teams were on the load management thing, some would still play balls to the wall all season. And then come playoff times, like, okay, now that everybody's putting the sliders to the right and everybody plays all out every game, regular season is not quite the same thing as the postseason. So I think in some ways, like the polls may have it more right than they ever have in terms of like the loss column probably needs to matter more.
Definitely. Or else, because in the NBA, what and college like what matters, like the playoffs. No one cares about the regular season. It's just getting in. And then that's how we determine legacies, greatness, all of it. So that does concern me, because if we wouldn't have hurt Alabama for losing to Vanderbilt, or we wouldn't have hurt Ole Miss losing to, because I remember at the time, it's like I think it was right after Ole Miss lost, or even might have been after Bama lost to Vanderbilt. It's nobody said it doesn't matter. They'll be fine. Like they're still going to get in the playoffs. And then they didn't, and it did hurt them, and the regular season did matter. So I do think that is important that we try to keep that as critical as possible.
I mean, no, the way you make more games matter by adding more teams to the playoff is just have the players sit out during the regular season, because those games matter a lot now. It's great. I love it.
I'm encouraged by your position, Bud. Wins should matter 100%, because I don't think the playoffs should only be reserved for the teams with the talent to win a national championship. I think you should be able to make the college football playoff if you have won enough games to be right there in the spot. To your point, maybe the polls do have it right in this era. Like that's deserving. It is the age-old debate of best versus deserving. And I think that having the talent requisite to win all of the games required in an expanded, let's say 16-team playoff, no, you shouldn't be discounted just because you don't have the same number of 4 stars and 5 stars as another team if you actually took care of business and won those games on your schedule. That you deserve a crack at it, because otherwise, what do the games matter?
What should matter more, though, winning or not losing?
Winning. Thank you. Every time.
Danny.
Is my brain broken here? Like what?
No, I get it. Because winning versus not losing allows you to take a loss if you've also got good wins.
No. I'm saying because of what Greg Sankey said on Monday night. It's clear that not losing becomes in many ways more important than beating Georgia.
Oh, this is the other point I was thinking about when I was watching Strickland talk yesterday. You can't simultaneously hold the positions that a committee is ill-suited for college football because the sample set is too small to derive conclusions. And then on the other side of your mouth, argue that we definitively know which conference is the best with strength of schedule wise for that year. Like stone cold lock. Like it's one or the other. Okay. Either you really know what everybody is, and then you can like really value strength of schedule, or you admit that we have a lot of unknowns because of the lack of connectivity in the sport and the fact we only play 12 games. You really can't hold both opinions like strongly. I don't, unless maybe that's me spitballing. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Oh man, I meant to mention this. Tom, did you have indigestion on Monday night?
No.
That was an interesting little anecdote to throw right in the beginning of your midnight column, firing back at Greg Sankey. It was like 3 paragraphs in. It was like, well, the rest of the country was dealing with indigestion at the end of Memorial Day weekend. And it was relatable because I was, but I just was wondering if you were going into that column also suffering from the American tradition of overeating on a Memorial Day.
No, I'm on a diet. I had a salad for dinner.
Good for you. Good for you. Gut Awareness Month. Let's go.
Dinner. I got one.
I will shout out Huddy, my 3-year-old, who told me he did not need a swim diaper and did not need floaties on Memorial Day, and he backed it up. I was like, bro, no accidents, like none of that. Just jumped off, swam back to the side. I was like, okay, it's big boy season. Let's go, bro.
I'm a man
that
now,
was a
Daddy.
major. Like I had him obviously. Like I had all the stuff ready to go because I figured he's totally full of it, and he backed it up. I was happy.
Turns out he wasn't figuratively and literally.
Yeah.
I mean, did
he drop trout and go in the hedges? Yeah, but I feel like that's just
whatever. Going on a PP tree, that's still like exhibiting good behavior. That's still it's still good right there. Did you guys think we were done with the playoff debate? Did you see 5+11 coming out of nowhere? Did you see this momentum for a 16-teamer all of a sudden just seemingly? I mean, maybe I'm overreacting to it, but I mean, if we were to make a prediction, do you feel like you've got a good bet on where we'll land on this?
No. For a long time, I thought it was going to be the 14-team model with the 4-4-2-2-1, with the one at large probably going to Notre Dame, and felt pretty comfortable with it. Like, all right, that's where we're going to be. So I've been caught off guard by the 16 and even more so by the 5+11, and probably most concerned about that one.
Concerned?
Because I think that's the one where you rig it up to get 8 teams from the SEC in 9. Like you rig it like because they're only getting stronger. Like, and I know they've gone back and they've looked at the numbers of how many times the Big Ten SEC would get in, and it's about the same. It's like, it's probably 5 and 5 if it was 16, but they're dominating even more so with the new money era, the NIL era. They're dominating the preseason rankings. So the strength of schedules, all that is going to favor them even more. So I think with the 5+11, there's a chance they could do what they've done in basketball and baseball and softball and every other sport.
I just think that you can't run this like mini playoff that they want to run in the SEC. And I'm going to presume the Big Ten without the guaranteed spots. Mm-hmm. I think that's the main reason they push for that, right? Because they don't want to give up the money train of the conference championship weekend.
Yeah, I'm still not totally certain of. Are they saying the top 2 of the 4 would get in, and then the mini tournament
and 3 would play 6, 4 would play 5,
and those would be the other 2 spots to go in? It's just so convoluted.
You really can't run that and sell that and like actually plan around that if you don't have the guaranteed spots to do it. Like you have to be playing for something.
And you think conference championships in the SEC and the Big Ten would be meaningless in a 5+11 model?
Meaningless might be strong, but less meaningful. And certainly like I think you have significant downside risk if you do. Okay, can you give me a scenario in which they would go ahead with this, like 1 and 2 are in, 3, 6, 4, 5, if those weren't guaranteed spots?
Spitballing. If we did like the 5-11 model, where the conference champs get the automatic berth, would conference championships still matter in the SEC and the Big Ten if you guaranteed the top 2 seeds to the Big Ten and SEC champion?
I think they would.
Would they go for that?
I think they would end up that.
Yeah.
But I know they would.
Care.
But you can guarantee it because there's going to be a difference between being a 1 seed and a 3 seed. In all likelihood, because you're going to end up playing like the G5 champ if you're the 1 seed, and if you're the 3 seed, you might play another SEC team.
Right? Yeah, that's exactly. HW, how are we sucking up to the Big Ten?
I wouldn't worry about that. We're in conference spring meetings mode, bud. It's all over the place right now. Sorry, Danny, what were you saying?
I feel like the conference champion weekend round robin, whatever you want to call them, to determine the seeding or the 4 AQs potentially, have they been talked about as much? Or are we waiting to get the model first?
Waiting to get the model first is my understanding.
Because there is a chance that the conference championship games themselves go away or not.
I don't think there's any. Based on what they're asking for, I'd be shocked if they go away anytime soon. Like that looks like a real big moneymaker for them.
But they would have a second game to determine, or 2 extra games to determine the 3 and the 4 spots.
Correct.
Yeah.
They'd be happening on the same day.
Right.
I found myself attracted to 5+11 because it's just easier. I was just trying to sell this to a fan who already was turned off when they'd watch the committee rankings on Tuesday, and then they'd watch the committee rankings flip over into different seedings, and they were like, wait a second, well, how did the team at 12 get the 3? And how did the team at 18 go up and get the 4? And why does the team that's 3 sit there now in the 5 spot? And moving to straight seeding like we're doing in 2025, I think is a great thing and is going to help address some of that. But the idea that it's like, okay, no, these teams are now safe, but now these teams have a playoff. And when they get there, now we're going to have to tune in on Sunday to see where they all get seeded and ranked against each other. I mean, the scenarios would make for entertaining television, because here's how it goes on CBS Sports HQ. Our very good friend, Jordan Giorgio, is like, okay, now, Danny, lay out all the scenarios. And then they go to a full screen graphic, and you've got to use all of the air in your lungs to talk about all the different scenarios that are going to come out of this like conference jamboree weekend. It's just going to seem so incredibly unnecessarily complicated. And I personally think that a 5+11 16 team model would be something that fans would have a little bit of an easier time understanding it and jumping in to.
I'm also, I agree with that. I also really am I don't love the idea that we're going to play like 13v16 and 14v15 on some kind of opening weekend, and then the 2 conference champs from the Big Ten and the SEC get the double bye. Some people in the chat responded to my question of how are we giving the Big Ten a pass here, or hating on the SEC. I think because it circles back to the conversation we had before. If we all agree that the Big Ten has better teams at the top, at least currently, and the SEC's middle is considerably better, the SEC has far more to gain in asserting its influence here over this future format, because the SEC is far more likely to get that 5th, 6th, or perhaps 7th team in than the Big Ten. I really have a hard time seeing the Big Ten ever getting like more than 5. So maybe they're like 4+1. I think the SEC stakes are far greater. Like they could be like 4+3 in a given year if things continue to trend recruiting wise as they are. So again, we have no idea how it's going to go with the house stuff. Like that could totally
we're
go.
also
because the Big Ten's not publicly bitching about how unfairly they're being treated.
I mean, we're also
Sure,
we're reacting to the conversation within the sport, and the conversation is coming from Destin, Florida, where there is, as you mentioned, a full media blitz of one of the biggest conference commissioners in the sport, athletic directors who hold big positions of influence. They are the ones who are welcoming and starting this conversation. We are reacting and continuing that conversation. We are not seeing the same waves being made in other conferences. Like even to your point about we didn't get this out of the ACC spring meetings, so it's reactionary.
Can I just bring up one narrative that I'm seeing in the chat, and I've seen it elsewhere, that the Big Ten is letting Sankey do their bidding for them. So you're telling me Greg Sankey, the most powerful man in college football these days, at the head of the SEC, he's the Big Ten's lackey? That's the narrative you're trying to speak to me now? You guys are so powerful that your commissioner has to do the other conference's bidding for them? Who's buying the bullshit now?
Fair. All right. Anything else from the SEC spring meetings that stood out, playoff otherwise?
The 8 versus 9 game conference schedule debate. They're like they're kind of signaling that in order to go to 9, you need the guaranteed spots.
God, I hate this too. It's a lot of posturing. Like if this, then we'll do this. If this, then we'll do this. That's why I liked Kirby cutting through the BS. They're asking him about the playoff, and he's like, forget the playoff. Let's talk about what impacts me. Because what impacts me is tightening up this transfer portal. He had no time for trying to talk about whether we should go to a 4-4-2-2-1-1 hike or a 5+11. He's like, no. We need to worry about 2 versus 1 and win. That was all he wanted to talk about, was whether we were going to do 2 transfer portal windows or 1 transfer portal window and when that window would be. He is carrying, best I can tell, correct me if I'm wrong, the same message that the American Football Coaches Association had, which is that they are looking for the one window, which will take place in January after basically the conclusion of the season. This year, it would have been the conclusion of the quarterfinals.
Did Kirby also propose a one window for when coaches can change jobs? Or can they still
No.
change before the conference championship games?
Anytime he wants.
Oh, okay. So we're just going to be straight hypocrite on that?
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool.
And this is the reason we're focusing on the playoff now is because that's something we can change. Until the house stuff comes through and until all this stuff is settled and we actually just make these players employees, the fact is you can't do anything about the portal without getting the hell suit out of you. So you just have to get all that stuff done first, and then we will settle the rest.
Totally. Last thing on why Sankey's louder. Sankey has more mouths to feed who will have like legitimate gripes if they get left out. That's kind of circling back to the point where I think like the chance the Big Ten gets in more than 4 is low. The chance it gets more than 5 is really low in almost any of these models. And you have more teams in the SEC who are probably like, if I'm an AD at Oklahoma, or if I'm Castiglione, or if I'm Florida's AD, or South Carolina's AD, or LSU's, I'm probably going to Greg and be like, man, you want to spend all this money for just 4 spots? Like, we're going to have like 8-10 spenders. That doesn't mean they're good. Like, we see plenty of teams spend and suck. I mean, hell, Tallahassee was one of them last year, right, Danny? But I think there are fewer teams in the Big Ten who would be like, hey, we really deserve to get in as the 6 and got left out than the SEC. And so I think Sankey has to be louder because he's going to have more of his constituency that he represents really pissed if they spend all that money and get left out. So I think that's one of the main reasons why he is louder than Petiti on this.
That's fair. Anything else from Destin stand out? Get your attention?
Lovely beaches.
I'll catch. I know we don't often talk about other broadcasts or other shows, but do you believe that Lane and Paul did not know that they were live on the air for what was a somewhat charming back and forth? Danny, I see you smile. So I'm guessing
they knew exactly what they were
Okay.
doing.
What we're
I mean, these two are like the odd couple. They're setting up to do a weekly show together.
It was a charming back and forth.
It was.
They buried the hatchet from times where Lane's felt like Paul's been out to get him. You know, it was a nice little charming back and forth from Paul Feinbaum's beach front set there at the SEC spring meetings.
You know, Lane as an eventual replacement for Paul is interesting. I figured it'd be somebody else. I'm not going to say because they currently have a media job, but like Paul's not going to work forever, and he looks great for his age, but he's fairly up there, right? So I don't know. Lane as a TV guy would be good, probably.
I think Danny's recommending their own. That's the next project.
Oh, a show combined?
Yes,
dude.
Yeah, we're talking a 2-man routine. Little Paul and Lane. You know.
Oh yeah.
Imagine that coach's group text now with Lane on it if he's got a show.
I mean, look? How about this? Ready? Free for you. Call it Memory Lane. It just tells stories.
Oh, that's great.
Memory Lane with Paul Feinbaum and Lane Kiffin, just going down the rabbit hole of old stories, you know. But the one part of it that I thought was interesting was when Paul was like, "Well, yeah, I mean, I was in with Alabama with Nick Saban. I don't know if I'm in with Alabama now." I was like, "Okay, regime change," and he understands where he stood. But there are some big decisions ahead. It has been interesting to hear from the SEC as they continue to weigh in on both the playoff and otherwise. At some point, we'll get House through. I know that we also heard that the clearinghouse will be ready to go, quote, 3 weeks after the final settlement is through. So best of luck to you and all the papers that you'll be sorting, trying to figure out what's legit or not, and avoiding litigation. Should be great. All right, here's the schedule. So we're going to be back tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern time. It is the best time of the week because it's the time that the conversation gets in your hands. That's right. Big old bag of mail. Questions from the live tailgate. Come and hang out, early birds. We appreciate y'all getting those questions in. We will lead off the show with some of those early arrivals to the tailgate. Subscribe to the show on YouTube. Turn your notifications on. You'll get notified when the link goes live for Thursday's mailbag episode. Next week, you'll be getting a little bit of summer school at the beginning of the week and summer school at the end of the week. Then right in the middle, a live show held down by the boys here as I've got to go and throw on the old orange jumpsuit, the continuation of my punishment from years ago. So we are excited about it. Again, live show Thursday, 11 a.m., next Wednesday, 11 a.m., and plenty of summer school in between. And you can follow him on Twitter at BudElliott3. You can follow him at Tom Fornelli. You can follow him at Danny Kanell. You can follow me at Chip_Patterson. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
See y'all.
See ya.